This trip begins with bacon, specifically the smell of it, waking me up, and it tasted darn good. Me and my dad had finished packing. It took us roughly 2 days to get everything set up for the 5-hour trip. I noticed my 2 dogs were resting, and my mom was getting set for her own small trip. The bags were packed in the back of the vehicle we were going to use, and I waved goodbye to my dogs and said bye to Mom, knowing I'd be back home roughly a day and over a half later. Me and my dad hopped in the car, saying goodbye to Mom for a second time as she's oddly dancing on the porch. Then we were off to the first stop on our trip, which was a local grocery store, to grab ice to keep the drinks cold, and 2 sandwiches for my dad, which he enjoyed. So the preparation stage was over, and the trip into Pennsylvania began, which took a while, but time went quickly, as there was lots of talking along the way. The first rest stop was just entering Pennsylvania. It was called the Pennsylvania Welcome Center. Inside, the whole place was super clean, including their restrooms, and my dad got useful directions in there. Then it was back on the road again, following the directions given at the Welcome Center. There was a lot of cool scenery, leading us to a second rest stop, where we checked how far we went. Then more interesting scenery. Then we entered a heavily populated Amish town, and stopped at the Amish grocery store and restaurant. Then we reached a toy tractor store, which my dad really wanted to go to. In fact, I think this toy store was his favorite part of this trip. Once we entered the toy store, it was like a candy land to my dad. He couldn't help but to get a few souvenirs. Then we checked the map, and we were off to the tractor show. Once we got there, we looked for what we needed to bring with us and left all the other stuff in the van. We hopped on a tractor with a bench attached to it and rode it up to the show. It was a cool ride, to say the least. It took us right into the show. We paid to get in, getting a blue gear stamp. Then we looked at yard sales, which turned out to not have much of a variety, just lots of tools. Then we looked around the tractor section of the show. The tractors looked nice. Then I got some fries there, and my dad had some too. We saw a huge red wagon and headed back to our car. I took my fries along for later, but that was a bad decision because those fries lose their good taste after an hour or two. There was a Comfort Inn, which we stayed in for the night, bringing some bags in, and then in the morning taking them to the car as we left, leaving a morning buffet at the Comfort Inn, which to me and my dad wasn't much of anything. Day 2 began by going to a diner called Rockvale Diner, and after eating there, we loved it. Then it was off to the tractor show for the second time. Once arriving, we got to another tractor ride, and this time the driver was Speedy Gonzalez. Smooth ride wasn't how I'd describe this day's ride. I'd say hold on to your railing and hope that there's no sharp turns. The stamp changed to a green tractor. We saw some cool old cars from the 1900s through 1950s. Then we saw gears and pumps in motion. We heard preaching. It was very informative. Then the national anthem started. Everyone froze like mannequins as we heard a longer version of the national anthem. We got peanuts and looked some more at tractors. Then yard sales, which showed more than the day prior. I even picked my mom up a Jack Russell t-shirt. We got back on Speedy Gonzalez's tractor, which made me say wow once more, and updated my mom that we were heading home, and we made one last stop at a statue place, looking at fox statues, and going inside a cool building with an awesome upstairs, and another section outside with tons of awesome realistic dog statues. Then we were on our way home, finding a 70-mile-per-hour speed limit, which we've never seen before, and that speeded things up, making the GPS's estimated home arrival time shorter and shorter than we expected. We filled up at the Dandy Mart, grabbing a coffee, and that was truly the last stop before arriving home. Once we got home, an impatient douche rode almost through the neighbor's lawn. Instead of waiting 10 seconds for us to make our turn into our house, but there's no grudges. We're home at last. Roll end credits. Personally, this doesn't really work with the video itself, so I'm just going to make this an end credit sequence. Okay?